doing semi-deep drilling for oil and gas are from Norway. They're all over the Middle East. They're in Saudi Arabia. They're doing offshore in the Persian Gulf. It's Norwegians. And I've had the pleasure and the benefit of contact with one of them who's a hat trick letter subscriber and said, Jim, I need to straighten you out on something. And he did. And I gained some information to my advantage. And I'm very happy about that and grateful for that. Um,
So, Jim, let me ask you then, how does Trump back the dollar with gold? What price does it get to? And how does he maintain um, leverage when perhaps other entities around the world are going to take over the pricing mechanisms of gold and silver? We just mentioned what Russia is all about right now. Where do you see gold going in all of this? And then in counterpart, silver. Silver being the much smaller market in all of this and still being a strategic metal, where does it bring silver?
Silver might actually be the lit fuse for gold in its next big run. The last run was gold running, I think, because of all the debt problems, the US government debt and the Treasury failed auctions and the BRICS making a lot of noise. And it's real noise. But what came out of that, Jean-Claude, was the desire to create a silver cartel.
Mhm.
And you know, China had begun the cartel by doing off-market purchase of silver ore with South American suppliers of silver. That is a move toward a silver cartel. It's not recognized as such. But if they're getting, you know, the first dibs on Ecuador and Chile silver and Peru, then they got a big advantage and they can squirrel it away and build up their stockpile and make a secure national reserve for silver. They've been talking to Mexico about organizing that, and I think they're going to make some progress on that. So to begin with, silver, I think, is going to be the lit fuse on gold. We're going to see a number of bullion banks fail in the next 2 or 3 months for their silver position. Now, I had a disagreement with Chris Marcus yesterday. I told him that I read, and it was really only, honestly, it was really only one place that there are 17 billion ounces short for silver, and Bank of America is only 1 billion of that. 17 billion. And he said, well, look,
Who's on the hook for the 16?
well, the bullion banks,
But
they keep,
who specifically? Is there one bigger
well,
player
the
there?
bullion
All of them.
banks are largely Wall Street and London Center
Okay.
subsidiaries.
Yeah.
Do you really, okay, this is a tough question, but do you really think, and I don't know the answer, but do you really think that there's an independent bullion bank with no multi-billion dollar asset source behind it that's shorting silver? I think they're London, Swiss, and New York banks.
Hmm.
I don't know how it wouldn't be that.
All right.
Maybe Toronto Dominion is involved, and I think they're in trouble.
That
I
could
think
be
they got
why
a
they're in the
short.
crosshairs of all this legislation also.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
All
Yeah.
right. Let me mention something here that's really important, and
Okay.
it backs up my entire premise that Trump is going to want to be very reluctant to use the gold to pay out. Okay, here's the principle. I'm going to paraphrase it. I'm not going to get it exactly right, but it's called Gresham's law. And the best form, the most valid forms of money are hidden and kept sequestered. You bring out for usage your poorest quality money, forms of money. Now, I didn't quote that properly, but that you get the idea. The best forms of money are kept hidden.
Mhm.
So if, for instance, if you've got some, say, counterfeit gold bars, they're salted. Well, you use them and you put your good gold bars in the basement, in the vault.
Yeah.
If you've got some gold that you know that these coins are like, 40% copper, and you can sell them in the black market, you do it. And you keep your good gold coins in your vault, in your wall safe. You hold back your best form of money. And that's Gresham's law. And you bring forth your poor form of money and you use it as long as the fools will take it. So The tough question is how many fools are there in the BRICS?
Right. How long can
I
this currency war continue using this fake currency toilet paper money as opposed to getting into hard money?
right. And what Trump is doing right now is he's saying, we're going to threaten you with tariffs and we're going to quietly threaten you with military action
Hmm.
if you don't accept treasury bills for trade payment.
So wild guess
And
before we
Trump,
close this segment, because again,
it's
we're
not
on the
going to
clock.
work.
Uh,
It's
I
not going to work.
Okay, I appreciate that. Where do you see gold going if they try it? What's next for gold? What's the next for silver in terms of prices here? If this comes out into the open and is being used here as settlement for some to some extent around the world.
Where's gold going to go?
Yeah.
Um, I think silver is going to launch it upward when the silver bullion holders are crushed.
Hmm.
I think China and India are going to do the main crushing. They're going to get blamed for it and they're going to be attacked for it. But remember, China is not using their trade surplus to buy treasuries anymore. Okay, they triggered the Lehman crisis by dumping Fannie Mae bonds. And they told us, but they told us indirectly. Right now, China is redeeming, not redeeming, they're converting their trade surplus in gold and silver. I think that's how they're buying the South American silver. I think they're using treasury bills. I think that the South American countries are taking treasury bills for their silver. What are the Chinese using? It might be using yuan. I understand that. Okay, we're going to get very soon to the point where central banks in the West are going to run out of time and they're going to realize that they're insolvent and they are going to push the $3,000 price. And after we get to 3,000, there's going to be a lot of hoopla and they're going to push it to 5,000. That's
Hmm.
what I'm that's what I'm expecting.
Okay.
And
And for
and
silver?
silver is just going to find its own extraordinarily high value. And I don't know how it's going to happen because Tesla is about to enter the room. And up to now, the big factor has been solar farms and military stockpile. Something is never mentioned, even in a postulate, and I'll mention it here. I think one of the bigger buyers for silver in the last several months has been the U.S. military.
Yeah. That gets us into the next segment here for Trump and the Rogan interview, where they're talking about this technology that his uncle had access to, John Trump, the Tesla files here, and how some of the zero point technology could reshape our financial world, like basically within the next 2 or 3 years, to moving away from the petrodollar infrastructure to this zero point technology. This is very disruptive, and it's a threat to all of the power players around the planet now whose fortunes were made on the petrodollar system. So there's a lot of reluctancy to bring that up. But just now, in the last couple of weeks with the UAP conference and now all the UFO sightings here just in the last couple of days, it suggests that something might be occurring here that is going to put this in our face and accelerate our transition between this fake currency, toilet paper money, to maybe a gold-backed currency or petrodollar currency to then maybe zero-point technology. How quickly do you think that transition can be? And do you think, as Trump was saying here in this Trump Rogan interview, that has access to some of this technology and that he might use that and deploy that here as a tactic to move into this new economy? What do you think, Jim?
I think it's going to take time, and time is what we don't have. I think the potential is there. I don't disagree at all. I think it's very real. I've been talking about Tesla technology for energy production for the
Mhm.
last close to 2 years
Yeah.
and how it will be a big factor in the reindustrialization of the United States economy. And I think it's very real and it's not poppycock and it's not fantasy and it's not Pollyanna. It is very real. And
Yeah.
now Trump has gotten access to at least see it. I don't think Trump is that bright. Okay. And I'm going to take a lot of flack for that. It's going to take a long time to reindustrialize the United States. It took 15, 20 years to deindustrialize.
Yeah.
It's not going to take 15 months to reindustrialize. We're going to have problems with contracts foreign contracts that get reneged upon, bring them back to the United States to do contracts. How long will it take to retool an abandoned car factory?
Yeah.
How long to take to retool an American truck factory? Okay,
How
what
long to
consequence?
retool the workforce also in this new technology?
Oh,
Yeah.
golly, we,
Yeah.
we have a troubled workforce where I'm sorry to say, but maybe over 60% are on welfare or on drugs.
Yeah.
It's really quite sad. We have deteriorated as a nation. We cannot industrialize quickly. We have to make a 5-year plan. And in those 5 years, we've got to find a way to pay for trade imports.
Hmm.
We have to find, shipments.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, I just heard something that's really quite interesting. What does Sony stand for? Sony.
I don't know. I don't know.
Standard Oil in New York. Okay. It is another hidden Rockefeller tool. I just got an email from a client who said, Jim, due to a family conversation many years ago, a friend of the family came back and it was a different, like an electrical type company. I don't want to mention the name. And they visited um, Sony and they saw Standard Oil in New York in the 1970s on the wall. Okay, we're being taken for a ride. We have been betrayed by the Rockefellers. I
Yeah.
don't mind criticizing them because I think they're the main satanic force that is directing attacks at me from occult media. I think it's the Rockefellers, Geneva and the Rockefellers. Okay, I'm enduring a lot of hardship. I don't want to describe it right now here, but you asked me where is gold going? I think the central banks are going to use the Jelly, Jelle, but I think the Dutch pronounce it Jelly, Jelly Zilstra. I mentioned this before. And Andy Schechtman has revealed that the central banks are loading up on gold and they're putting it on what they call a gold revaluation account
Yeah.
and calling it a debit.
Yeah. Exactly that. Yeah.
Okay, so they're going to flip and suddenly they're not insolvent. But it's
Is
not going to work at 3,000.
is this what Warren Buffett is talking about? This was in Fortune magazine the other day. Warren Buffett issues a warning for all parents ahead of the 84 trillion great wealth reset. What is he alluding to, you think? He's of course been in cash positions more and more in the last year. You and I've reported on that. He might be involved somewhere here in the background, also in the silver market, as he was maybe a couple of decades ago, preparing for something that's just around the corner. We've seen the COMEX, the LME, most of these exchanges being drawn down in the last couple of years. Somebody's front running this and getting physical in a big way. But what do you think Buffett was alluding to here specifically, and why is he out of tune, perhaps with the government in the White House right now in the transition period?
I think he might be alluding to the gold troves that I was talking about.
Hmm.
Um, 100,000 tons of gold is 10 trillion. So we talk about 8 times that,
Hmm.
800,000 tons of gold. I mentioned two different greater than 1 trillion ton troves. Okay. Um, I think we're about to see monetization of gold troves out of the Philippines, and it's going to be a battle. Um, what I'm hearing, and I've heard steadily, Jean-Claude, is that there are about 5 troves. I call them troves because I don't know what else to call them. Treasures, giant gold treasures, and the white hats control the majority of them. Like one or two are black hat, one or two are cabal.
Hmm.
I think the Black Eagle was, has been, and will continue to be black hat, cabal.
So as we go through this pain here, this transition, the stupid moves, the tit for tat, the war, like, are you still a very big proponent right now of holding physical gold and silver during this transition?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think they're, uh, you know, we're probably not going to see it anytime real soon, but I think bank accounts are going to be in trouble.
Well,
because
Cliff High has this huge derivative bomb on his WebBot radar, I think for
I
December
know, and
15. Yeah.
on December 15th, yeah,
On or around there, there's some big issues at the border. Well,
yeah,
yeah.
this is very scary.
He's seeing
Um,
tanks maybe in front of the Federal Reserve also. That's been in the data now for 3 months, and it seems to be just around the corner here. These data sets
what
are
what
accruing.
what is just around the corner? I missed.
Tanks, armored vehicle in front of the Federal Reserve.
Oh,
He's had that in the data sets now for the last 3 months, and
well,
those are still accruing.
how about the shredder trucks in front of the FBI?
That too, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that too. Uh,
yeah,
and how about the pardon to the not? To, hey, let's not be silly. The pardon was given to the cabal, not Hunter.
right,
A dead man gave a pardon to a dead man.
yeah.
Yeah, this is really quite silly stuff. We're going to have a lot of revelations, and it's going to be very dicey and very weird, very fast.
We're getting into
Um,
that secrets revealed. Hey, listen, we have 4 minutes left on this recording. I want to get all of this in. You and I have been talking about XRP for quite some time. We were always suggesting that at some point here would get out of troubled waters. You've mentioned
I
many times on our show that
I told you
that it
so.
was getting out of this legislation problem when everybody was laughing at you. And lo and behold, that lawsuit was dropped. And look at our XRP today. We were at 22 cents when you and I were reporting that a while back, and now we're almost back to all-time high, close to
Five times
$3 here.
higher
Yeah,
in one
exactly.
month.
Exactly.
I like the phrase they're getting regulatory clarity.
Yeah.
In other words, they're not getting shit on and obstructed by the SEC. And did not Gensler resign?
Supposedly out in January. Yeah.
I heard he resigned, and he did so before the inauguration. I heard he resigned, Jean Claude. And I just, it's hard to confirm these things. What do you
Yeah.
do? Call him up? I have a joke. I say, call 100, 100 go Satan, and you'll get JP Morgan headquarters. And you can ask them.
hmm
Okay,
Well, it's in the mainstream news. Again, there were conflicting reports. Same thing also with Janet Yellen's resignation. So it's a little bit murky at this point. But here, this is the Guardian suggesting that Bitcoin was rising, of course, after the SEC chair says that he is
I
a
think he's
step
already
down when Trump is
I think
inaugurated,
he's
right?
gone.
Yeah.
He's gone, and now we got new regulatory authorities who maybe have not been approved yet. Okay,
Right.
like taking action without the full authority. Okay, you asked me what about XRP? I think that in the next month or 6 weeks we could be seeing $5.
hmm
Once we get past $5, I think it's going to be Katie bar the door. That's what I think is going to happen. $5 will break a lot of different impressions, attract a lot of new people, maybe bring to the table in a very tangible, contractual way Elon Musk. Elon Musk is talking about $82 XRP.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I have been saying in order to maintain the rise, we need to have concrete, tangible evidence and structure. And we're seeing it in the form of adoption. We're seeing it in the form multiple nations adopting.
Yeah.
Japan has a requirement. Every bank, every financial institution in Japan must be compliant. And Russia is doing the same. We're going to see an increase, not so much in adoption, that's already happening. We're going to see it in partnerships. Partnerships,
Speaking of partnerships, Jim, we're almost out. We have
we're out
one
of time.
minute left on the recording. Tell the audience members how they can support you here and be your partner as you create the newsletter month to month to month here, detailing all of this amazing research here on golden-jackass.com. What do you have for them? You have a minute left here on the recording, Jim.
Okay, the stock and trade is the newsletter. It's the subscribe button in the very center. We just had the November report posted, and my website manager is a bit influenced by the German language. He thought November was with a W. Okay, so in the upper left, you see November posted. Okay, for those who don't wish to have a newsletter, they can hit the donate button on a regular basis. If you're wealthy, you can hit the sponsor button like somebody did yesterday, a wonderful fellow. That's for a bigger contribution. The consulting is something I've been doing now for 5 full years, Jean-Claude. I've got some more that I'm planning in the next couple of days, and it's really a pleasure. It's not a chore. I've done close to 800 consults, but go to Golden-Jackass, sign up for the newsletter, make a donation, do whatever you wish. these are exciting times, and what what we're seeing now is the transition of the news organizations. The legacy corporate news is going to be transformed and sold out for 10 cents on the dollar.
And we are